Hi, Paul here at the Mustang Museum of America in Oakville, Alabama. Nonprofit museum dedicated to the Ford Mustang. As you can see, we've got a lot of them. Today we're going to talk about a 1968 and a half Cobra Jet. This is another one-of-one car. It was bought new in 1967 by Rex Hall. He had a 67 GTA Mustang that he drag raced, and he wanted this car to drag race. That was it. That's all he wanted to do, was go drag racing. So he went to the dealership and he wanted to place an order for this car. Had to buy the GT option. You couldn't get the 428 without it. The dealership had four stipulations for him to buy this car. One, there was no price negotiation. Two, he wanted them to put an intake and camshaft in it. So they stated that he had to buy it and they were not going to warranty any damn hot rod, quote from the sales manager. So on top of that, financing had to be secured because they felt they couldn't sell this car if he hadn't bought it, hadn't come through on it. And then the last stipulation was 6 weeks before delivery, that's what it's going to take to get this car built, he had to go ahead and leave his trade-in of his 67 GTA to be sure that he would come back and get this car. So here we have a Wimbledon white, red interior, black vinyl top, makes it one of one. The black vinyl top does that. There were 6 cars with red interior that had the 428. There were 221 coupes made. So this is a pretty unique car. Rex bought this car with like I said, the sole intention to drag race. So he really didn't want it to stand out. He wanted it to be a sleeper. And he put a ton of miles at the drag strip on this car. This car it was owned 4 times by Rex. Six months after he bought it, I believe it was, the car was stolen. Found it in the desert in Texas with the wheels gone. He bought the car, or got the car back, put it back together. The second time he lost it, he went through a divorce and he had to turn the car over in the divorce. So then the ex-wife, couldn't keep up with maintenance on the car. It was too expensive. He got it back. That was the next time. Then he turned it over in lieu of child support to his ex-wife again. And he needed money to take care of his daughter who had leukemia. So that was the third time he lost the car. Then the wife couldn't keep up with the maintenance again and sold it to another party, and that was 1975. 1982, Rex heard about it, found the same car sitting in an apartment complex. It had 15,000 miles put on it since then, and it was a little rough looking. Our rough looking today is probably different than it was in 1982, but nonetheless, he said it was rough, and he went through the process of restoring the car. There's a lot of documentation on this car from the early 80s, magazine articles, and so forth. He took it to a lot of shows. There are books featuring this car. And then it gets lost track of. The car at that point went to a museum, or it was in a museum, and then it was sold by Superior Classics, I believe it was. Yeah, Superior Classics. It was advertised we can show you here in the trunk. I've got this laid out. It was advertised in the Ford Trader as having less than 4,800 actual miles. That's when Colonel Bill Hatfield bought the car in 1996. When he received the car wasn't running properly, and he contacted Rex. They became friends. Rex sent him this book, which is full of all the documentation that Rex had collected. And when he told Rex that he'd bought it with 5,000 miles on it, Rex laughed and said, "I put more than that on in the drag strip." So at that point, Bill got a lawyer involved and was talking to a friend of his at a Mustang Club meeting back then, who happened to be a postal inspector, and he said, "This qualifies for mail fraud." So they contacted Superior Classics and threatened with the lawyer. Superior Classics gave him some money back. Bill had the car. So he pulls the engine out because it had problems. I believe it was number 7 cylinder. And he had a guy in Mississippi rebuild the engine. That guy met some young girl online, as we hear this all the time these days. He took off, sold all of his equipment, everything there, and the motor disappeared, all of his equipment, and he was gone. So Bill's looking for the engine, thinks it's lost. He's off, finds an ad, and this guy's selling a 428 Cobra Jet for, I think it was about $3,500. Bill goes and takes a look at the car and takes his buddy with him, who happened to be a deputy sheriff. They're looking at the engine, and Mark was relaying this story to me. Mark is Bill's son. That he looks at it, verifies the number on the engine. This is his engine. And he tells the guy, well, I believe I'll take that engine. The guy says, great. You know, how are you going to pay? He says, no, that's my engine. I'm taking it with me. It's been stolen. And the guy says, well, wait a minute, you're not going anywhere. So his friend flashes his badge and says, well, you've got stolen property. We're going to take you to jail. The guy starts backpedaling. He says, well, I paid $500 for that. And Bill turns around, and you had to know Bill. He was a friend of mine too. He said, well, if you bought it for $500, you knew it was stolen. So Bill got the engine, the stand, everything, comes back. He puts it in the car. Bill's out one night, and he gives this thing hell. He puts it to the floor, and he blows it up. So finds out it put a hole in the side of the engine block. Now, Bill, wanting to keep it original, Bill was a huge Mustang fanatic. He and Mark, he said, Mark, we're going to go on the road, and we're going to find this engine block piece. And Mark said, Daddy, we're not going to find this. There's no way we're going to find this. Well, they get out on this highway where Bill blew it up, near where the oil stain was. And sure enough, Mark walked 20 or 30 yards and found that piece of the engine block. So Bill had a guy who was able to weld it back into this engine without any evidence of it, and that's as it sits today, it's back together. The reason it came apart was the guy who built the engine apparently installed some incorrect rod bolt or something that wasn't right, and one of the rods let go. But everything is still as original as it was delivered and drag raced. So the car actually has 105,000 miles on it, not 5,000 as was advertised. You can see here we've got the Marty report and everything that shows the breakdown of the car that makes it one of one. If you ever, Bill Hatfield, Colonel Bill Hatfield, just a side note, if you really want some military historical entertainment, look up the 4 Horsemen C-130 pilots on the internet, and you'll read about the 4 C-130 demonstration pilots. One of them was Colonel Bill Hatfield, and that was the man that most recently owned this car, and his son still owns it today, and it's going to get passed down to his grandson. So as you see, we'll go around to the front and open the hood. Here we have the restored back to original, as not as delivered from Ford, but as ordered by Rex Hall. They installed the intake and a carburetor on it. You know, back in the day, this thing could be seen street racing, drag racing all the time. This is one of those cars that was got the luck of being picked by an owner who just really wanted to use it for what it was intended. Ford put this together to beat all the other cars, and it was you know, one of the kings of the road back then. So really a cool car to have here on display. It may go home back to Mississippi to Mark here somewhat soon. So if you have a chance, come by, take a look at it in person. We've got a ton of other cars here for you to look at, and we hope you'll come visit us. Like this, subscribe to our channel, and you'll see more. You can see we've got a ton of cars that we're going to do video features on. So we'll see you next time. Thanks. Thanks again for tuning in on this Cobra Jet video. We're going to give you a tease on the next video that we're going to do, but on our way back, we'll give you another shot at the interior. This car did not come with an automatic and a tachometer. Tachometers were only standard on a manual transmission. Rex ordered the automatic transmission because of its consistency at the drag strip, and that was his sole plan to buy and race this car. So as you take a look at that, we will make our way back towards our next video coming up. How many of you, maybe not be old enough, but some of you may remember Charlie's Angels, and Ford provided the cars for Charlie's Angels. So there were Mustang 2s and Pintos in that TV series, and that was a pretty popular TV series. We are going to walk back. We have 2 replicas of the Mustang 2s used in the Charlie's Angels series. So we're going to do a twofer for the next video, and you're going to get 2 cars in one video. We're going to show you the Cobra 2 and the Ghia that are examples of what was used in the Charlie's Angels series. So you'll see those right here. So thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe, and you won't miss out on the next video where we feature these cars. Thanks again.